Hey everyone, Sumo Spiffy here. Welcome to day 5 of Fantasy Week for Hatsu 2023. Today we've got the Juryo game. Now this is not the same as games named similarly, like Makushita game or Sandanme game. Those games are bracket based. You have that small group of guys, you pick one, have another small group of guys, you pick another one. In fact, Juryo is included in Roto Sumo, which is like those other games. There are the brackets, you have everyone in Makuuchi, and then you have divisions or brackets in Juryo. This is different. We'll get into how. Let's get started. Okay, here are the rules for Juryo game. The Juryo game is a sumo-based game taking place every odd month when a Hanbasho occurs. Its purpose is to play with the underdogs of the second division and put the light on them, picking Juryo division Rikishi, as well as wrestlers in the lower Makuuchi and upper Makushita. Okay, this is how it works. That part's important. That stuff is what makes this different. You have to check 8 Juryo Rikishi. Each time these Rikishi will win a bout during the tournament, you score 1 point. So this is totally normal, right? You have to choose 1 Super Juryo Rikishi. Each time that Rikishi wins a bout, you score 2 points. Now you'd think 2 points, okay, 2 points instead of 1. No. If you pick him as one of your 8 wrestlers, that's separate, so he's worth 3 points instead of 1. Hey. You have to check 1 weak Maegashira Rikishi in a list of 8 selected amongst the bottom 16 of the top division. So that makes it sound as though you are going to get a selection from amongst the bottom 8 ranks. In this case, they just picked the bottom 8 guys, the bottom 4 ranks. So I don't know if they ever change it. Each time this wrestler loses a bout, you get a point. You have to check 1 ex-Juryo in a list of 8 selected former Juryo wrestlers ranked in Makushita. So this is where the actual selections come into place, and they don't just take the rankings, because they have to find the guys who used to be in Juryo. Each time this wrestler wins, you score a point, and then you have to take a Juryo hopeful. So then those are 8 Makushita wrestlers that have never made it to the top 2 divisions. Those guys score a point. So you have to look in Juryo and then a little bit above and a little bit below to make more selections. Makes it a little more interesting. For each player, the points of each of the 12 choices will be summed and a ranking will be established, and the players ranked from the highest total of points to the lowest total of points. Okay, if a Rikishi within the weak Maegashira selection is declared absent from the tournament, he will not be able to score any points for the entirety of the tournament, so make sure you got a guy who's going to be there. Except for the weak Maegashira section, if a Rikishi is declared absent, he will be able to score points if he returns. Now that's interesting. Maybe there's some kind of a coding thing where they can't separate the Kyujo losses from regular losses or something like that. That's a little surprising, but anyway, it is what it is. Make sure your big loser in Maegashira is actually going to be there. Everybody else, they can fight for part of the tournament and it'll be fine. Fusen Sho, so if they win because the other guy didn't show up, those are regular wins. Fusen Pai losses, so because they weren't there, those are regular losses. And we'll score points for the weak Maegashira selected going Kyujo, provided that the Rikishi is on the day 1 schedule. So this is kind of like upside down Hoshitori that we talked about yesterday, where as long as the guy is there for the day 1 schedule, the Kyujo losses are going to count. So is that fair? I don't know, but that's how they do it. Tiebreakers, you've got Super Juryo, you've got the Juryo hopefuls, so those are the ones that have never been in Juryo, the ex-Juryo, and then the weak Maegashira. So highest rank would be between players on the Banzuke generally. That's interesting. The Juryo guys, just the regular picks, are not part of the tiebreaker. That is, well, I guess if you've gone through all of those, then they must be tied. Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. I'm just thinking out loud here. Tiebreaker, not that important. Banzuke, for our purposes, not that important. Let's get into the game. So I imagine that this game is actually pretty difficult for most people, because most people who pay attention to sumo don't pay attention to Juryo. But this one should be a little bit easier if you have any idea of what's going on in the sport, because there are a lot of guys who are on the rise, who are up and coming, who have done really well at lower ranks, and are actually expected to hit Makuuchi sooner rather than later. So, who are they? Well, going back to our dual browser setup, let's look at each of those up-and-coming guys. Now, the most well-known probably is Hokuseiho. He's been lauded as a easy Makuuchi, quite likely a Sanyaku level wrestler in the future. He is trained by Hakuho. He's done real well at all levels from the bottom to the top. He's not like a collegiate guy. He didn't start at 3rd division. He started in the 6th division in March of 2020. So it's barely been 3 years. It technically hasn't even been 3 years. And he's gone with nothing but winning records anytime he wasn't injured. The only hole in his game is when he had his knee injury. So that's it, and he's totally kicked ass since then. 11 wins, 9 wins, 10 wins in Juryo. So he's not perfect, but he should very easily from Juryo 2 get a good enough record to move up to Makuuchi in the next tournament. It would be shocking if he didn't. He's an easy pick. Now I'm going to skip Atami Fuji for the moment because he is a slightly familiar face. We'll go to Oshoma. As you can see, Oshoma has been doing this for such a short amount of time. He is one of those guys who was able to move into 3rd division right away, but he was 4-3, 5-2, 3-4. This is it. Except for Nagoya, which wasn't really a losing record because of COVID. You know, he's had nothing but losing records, nothing but winning records, and he won the U show last time. Juryo 3, there's a very good chance he also moves up to Makuuchi, so he's an easy pick. Kinbozan started in Sandanme. I don't know what you have to do to start at Sandanme. If you're brand new, you start at the Maizumo and then go to Division 6. If you're like a collegiate Yokozuna, you start Division 3. Division 4, I'm not sure. But he went in, smashed everybody, pulled the U-Show, got the U-Show in his 2nd tournament at Maegashira, and this is his whole record. He's Juryo 5 now. He's got 10 wins and 8 wins in Juryo. From 5, as Akawa showed us, even having a good record at Juryo 5 isn't necessarily a guarantee you're going to move up, but he's got a good chance. A winning record should be a minimum expectation for him at this point, so he's a pick too. Now, just like Hokuseiho and Kinbozan might seem familiar to people who watch Chris Sumo's channel, Roga has shown up there a lot. Now, he's been around in the sport for a little bit longer. As you can see, he was around in 2018. So how's he done? Well, he's had a little bit more of a struggle. So he was like 7-0, got a couple U shows at the lowest levels, and then he had, you know, a couple 2-5s, slipped, 6-1, and then he went up and down and up and down. But he seems to be, let's get rid of that line, he seems to be pulling it together. So he went 6-1 since his last losing record. In Makushita, he went 6-1, 4-3, 4-3, 4-3, and then at 13 West, he went 9-6. So he seems like he can handle it. Now, he is not perfect. He obviously has the capacity to get beat down by guys around this point in the standings, but he's also learning. I think a winning record is very likely, but maybe not a given. So let's just mark him as one of the up-and-comers that we should consider. And then we have Ganoyama. Ganoyama is another one who started at Sandanme, and his career has not been very long so far. He had a 2-3-2 record at one point in Makushita. I think he got hurt. And then he had a 6-9 record in Juryo. He is supposed to be quite good. 8-7, 6-9, 9-6. He might take a little bit longer to move up, but he should be expected to do reasonably well here. Definitely many more winning records than losing ones. I don't think he's just going to be on the Juryo yo-yo for very long. All right, let's now swing back around and talk about Atami Fuji. He has not been doing this for super long. He started at the bottom in November of 2020, so he's barely cracked the 2-year mark. He went 6-1, 7-0, 6-1, 6-1, 5-2. He didn't have a losing record until he got to Juryo. 7-8, stayed in place, and then he went 10-5, 8-7, 8-7. He got quite lucky to move into Makuuchi, although when you then end up at 4-11, were you really all that lucky? So he got bounced back down to Juryo 3 East. How's he gonna do? Oho, when he was 7-3 and then fell apart to 7-8 and got demoted, he went to Juryo 1 East, kicked ass, went 10-5, came back up, struggled a little bit in Makuuchi, but didn't get demoted to Juryo again, and then he just had his pop-off performance. Atami Fuji has not shown quite that level yet. Now he's still young, and it's quite possible that by the time he's Oho's age, and it's weird to think of how long it's going to be until he's Oho's age, considering how young Oho is, Atami Fuji is probably going to do fine. I wouldn't expect him to go 4-11 in Juryo or anything, but here's the problem for him. He's good, but so is everybody around him. Look at the killers. We're saying Hokuseiho's probably going up. We're saying Kinbozan, he might not go up, but he should have a winning record. Oshoma should have a winning record. Everybody around him is accomplished. They might not spend much time out of Juryo, but they're overall accomplished professional wrestlers. It's gonna be tough just because the competition level is quite high relative to what this level usually sees. He might need guys like Hokuseiho and Oshoma to get up into Makuuchi, knock some lesser guys down, and then take advantage of that. So he's a reasonable choice, but I think he's a very good choice, and I'm probably gonna end up picking him, but let's see who else is here. Oh, right. There's one more guy, Asanoyama, the Exozeki. He's gonna be the man. And if we scroll down ever so slightly, we see we have now circled Haku Yozan, but select the Juryo, Yusho, or Rikishi who you think will make a big score. Obviously, it's gonna be Asanoyama. Everybody who's even thinking a little bit is going to pick Asanoyama. The only reason to not pick him is if you are trying to be contrary. He's going to smash everyone. It would be an absolute stunner if he didn't win the Yusho. It's probably going to take a minimum 14 wins and maybe a full 15 for him to go straight to Makuuchi from 12 West, and it is probably 50-50 whether or not he does that. I know he lost a couple of fights in Makushita. I don't really expect him to go 14, but I think he's going to get a minimum of 12. And in past months, that would be more than enough to get the Yusho. So I'm expecting that. I'm expecting a big score. He is the big pick for this tournament. Now let's look at everybody else. The problem for literally everyone in the top 6 that we haven't already talked about is that everyone that we've already talked about is there. In fact, for the guys at Juryo 6 and 7, you've got to deal with, so if you're a Juryo 6, you know what, let me switch that to red. So if you're a Juryo 6, you might not have to fight Hokuseiho, but you are going to have to fight Kinbozan and Roga and Ganoyama. Right? Maybe not Ganoyama, but then you might have to fight Oshoma. Like, you can't get away from these guys if you're in the top half of the division, really. You're going to have to fight most of them. And if you're unlucky, or I suppose if you're doing well, you're going to have to fight all of them. That's not a great position to be in because they are rocking. Well, if there are that many dangerous young guys, who do we pick? Well, I think for safety's sake, we just go with Roga and we go with Atami Fuji. They are on the high end of the skill level chain here. And even though somebody like Tochi Musashi could do fine, I mean, he did just win a Yusho in, I think, Aki, he hasn't done, well, you know what, let's just look up his record. Okay, so this was a failing on my part. I actually thought Tochi Musashi had been around for a while, but look, he's like a lot of these other guys. Killing it. Won the Yusho in his first tournament at Juryo, and then, you know, dropped to 7 and 8. But if we're gonna believe in guys like Ganoyama, why wouldn't we believe in Tochi Musashi? Again, the main problem for him is that at 7, with 15 fights, now in Juryo towards the back half of the tournament, their schedules get shifted around depending on how they're doing, but you're looking at matchups including Atami Fuji, Oshoma, Kinbozan, Roga, Ganoyama, and possibly Asanoyama. If he's doing well, he'll probably have to fight Asanoyama, even if that wouldn't be part of the normal schedule, but it's hard to say. And actually, if that happened, that means he's doing well, so he's not a bad choice. So who else might there be? Katanawaka's been up and down. Shimano Umi hasn't really been the same since he had that 1-14 tournament that knocked him out of Makuuchi. Hirono Umi, he got bumped from Makuuchi for kind of bullshit reasons, but he has struggled down here. Terutsuyoshi could crush it if he's healthy, but who wants to trust that at this point? So who do we have? All right, let's look at the guys at the bottom, because at the bottom, at least they have this going for them. They only have to fight Asanoyama and then maybe Ganoyama. That's not that many of these young killers that we're talking about. Asanoyama is not young, but he is definitely a killer. All right, let's start with Chiyo Sakai. He's 32, so he's been around for a while, and Juryo is new for him. So he was in Sandame for a while. He was in Makushita from 2012 until 2022. And then he went on a string of 5 straight 5-2 tournaments, and then he went 9-6, 8-7, 7-8 last time. Not bad. He's definitely going to have to fight Roga, Ganoyama, and Asanoyama. So what did his tournament last time look like? Who do you see here? There's Roga, who he beat, so that's good. He lost to Tochi Musashi. He lost to Ganoyama. Asanoyama is going to be a bad matchup. I don't know. Because with guys like this, see, like Koto Kuzan, he jumped to Makuuchi. It was like, what are you doing here? You don't belong here. But he's really sticking well in Juryo, even though for a long time he wasn't at that level. Chiyo Sakai seems like he might be that kind of guy. So if he's going to survive, he needs to do decently, but that could still be like a 7-8. I think we want to have a pick that's better than that. Shona Naomi is a new promotee from Makushita. So he's 24, reasonably young, started at the bottom. Up, down, doing better and better. He's been in Makushita since 2016, and it took him until this tournament to get to Juryo. Now he's been on a little bit of a roll, 6-1, 5-2, 5-2, but we really don't know what he's going to do against this level. I thought Sushi Minato was going to do good, and he went 7-8, so I feel a little bit burned. I don't want to pick the new promotees yet. Yeah, let's move on. Now, Kaisho was 5-10. That one's ugly, right? Haku Yozan is the other promotee, but he's not new to the division. So he's 27, and he has spent time in Juryo, but he's also spent some time injured. So there's injuries. He was Makushita. He was in Juryo once, lost, dropped back down, won the Yusho, was in Juryo for almost a year, and then got hurt and fell out. Went back to Makushita, came right back to Juryo, was doing basically okay, lower end of the division, won the Yusho in Juryo, got up to Juryo 3, got hurt, fell apart, dropped out of the division again, and now he's back. How healthy is he? I don't know. Do you want to trust that? Maybe? Because his real main benefit here is Asanoyama, probably Ganoyama, maybe Roga as his schedule. So it might be a little bit easier. He, more than anyone, is only going to fight a lot of those really talented younger guys if he's doing well, or unless they're sucking ass, which would be really problematic. So I think we're looking at either Haku Yozan or Tochi Musashi. So who's the better pick? The young guy who's shown more capacity and just won a Yusho, but also struggled in his last tournament and is in the middle of the blender, or the veteran who has a much easier, apparently, schedule, but definitely has a lower ceiling. You know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go with all young guys on this one. Tochi Musashi, you're my pick. Also, I do realize that the way the rules work out, I could pick Asanoyama as my super special awesome Juryo guy and then pick 8 other ones, but that's insane. There's no reason to do that. He's gonna rack up a ton of points. Get everything you can out of him. All right, let's go back to full screen for the Makuuchi guys, because we shouldn't need to look them up anymore. We've talked about them enough all week. Now, real quick, I want to mention that these profile links, they do go to another website, but that website doesn't appear to work. So you are going to have to look up anybody that you want to see information of on SumoDB. All right. Koto Shoho, Ichi Yamamoto, Koto Eko, Azumaru, Tsurugisho, Mitoryu, Takara Fuji, Chiyomaru. Yesterday with Upside Down Hoshitori, Azumaru, Mitoryu, and Ichi Yamamoto seemed like the safe picks to not do very well. Well, Ichi Yamamoto is probably like a 6 to 8 wins guy. Azumaryu seems like dead set on getting 6 or 7 wins every time he fights, whereas Mitoryu can definitely do worse. I feel like this one is a pretty easy lean towards Mitoryu. There's no guarantee he's going to have the fewest wins, but I do think he's the safest bet to have the fewest wins. Okay, the ex-Juryo guys are next. Tokushoryu is so special that he actually has a functional profile picture. Wow, that's pretty awesome. But who do we pick from these guys? I mean, they've been around a long time. They are good, but they're not able to stick in the division. These guys are not a group who were in the division for a long time and then they just dropped out, but we expect them to jump back up. Like Tokushoryu might not even fight. He just dropped down because he's been fading for a long time. As you can see, 28 years old is the youngest out of all of them. They're all 30 plus outside of that. Which one's the best? I don't know. The problem with looking up their histories is that if they're ex-Juryo, and especially if they're ex-Makuuchi, and they're down here, there's probably a reason. So how they've done in the past doesn't necessarily tell us a lot. I think this one is kind of a wild guess. I'll go with somebody who's at least a little bit on the upswing. I'll just say Chiyo Arashi. I have no reason to pick him, but I want to move on to the young guys because they're actually kind of interesting. And finally, we've got the Juryo hopefuls. Now this is where we want to look up how these guys have been doing up to this point, because you can see they're all pretty young. Ishizaki doesn't have that much time in professional sumo. He's one of the guys that came in at a higher level with amateur/university experience. So let's look at their records and see who seems the most likely to jump up. So Ishizaki, I mean, he is crazy good. He's right now 1 West. He is in a perfect position to get promoted. If he does any kind of positive record, he's going to end up in Juryo next time. And he's been doing more than that all along. He had a 3-4 and then a 1-3-3, you know, injuries happen. Other than that though, he's been killing it. So I think we can expect at least 4 wins easily out of this guy. Tochi Kamiyama, Kamehameha? No. Tochi Kamiyama is 21. He started in 2019, so that was 4 years ago at this point. So he's 17, he gets in there, he's doing okay. The thing with the guys who start as teenagers is that a lot of them have to grow more. They have to get stronger. So even when we see these struggles in makushita along the way, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to struggle all the time as they move up. Sometimes they just hit that point where it's like, my body is ready for this, and they start killing it. But he has been up, down, and he's not on any kind of a streak. So I think we're going to set him aside as an option. Sukahara, 23 years old. He's got a longer history. So he started in 2017. He's been doing this about 5 years. He's got the up, down. How's he done recently? So he had a 5-2, a 5-2, a 4-3, a 4-3. He was 2 East last time, but he couldn't quite make the jump to Juryo. So do we want to think about him over a guy like Ishizaki? I don't think so. We'll move on. Fuji Seiyun was in a very good position to jump last time, but after 3 U shows at the lower divisions, you know, he moved up and he's been doing okay. You know, he had a 3-4, 6-1, 3-4, and now at the top levels of makushita, he's, you know, 5-2, 4-3, 3-4. At 2 West, he had a good chance. Now he's going to probably have to go 2 more tournaments before he can get into Juryo. Can he get a winning record? Yeah, obviously he can. Again, though, Ishizaki seems like a safer pick. Dewa Noryu, 21. So he started in 2019. He's been doing well. March 2022, yeah, that was injury. That wasn't COVID, because we can see that his rank dropped considerably. It looks like he was injured, or no, he went out in Nagoya due to COVID, and then he's been doing well since then. So he seems like a reasonable pick. Dewa Noryu and Ishizaki. All right, Kawazoe. Kawazoe has had 2 tournaments. We don't know anything. He came in at a high level, had a winning record, and now he's here. No idea. Probably a little bit of a risky pick. Atsuji, 19. So maybe if you're taking them how they're going to do when they're 25, he's the best pick. But in 2019, you know, he started out well. And now he's had a ton of 4 and 3s in Makushita. Now he's a little bit lower down the chain, so he has maybe a little bit easier competition, but not really. Because if you look at the Juryo, the ex-Juryo guys, like the veterans, so we got Daiseiryu is at 10 West, Yago's at 11 East, Shiorarashi is at 9 East. Like, it's not going to be easy for him, even though he's a little bit lower. So he's probably not a good pick either. And finally, Mukai, work with me here. Mukayanakano. You know, I don't do that badly with these, at least if I go phonetically. This sucks. Mukayanakano. Anyway. 3-1 in my Sumo. I think I saw everybody having spotless records at that bottom level. I wonder how he managed to lose one. 2021, it looks like he had a COVID absence, and since then, 6-1. Yusho and Sandanme, he had one bad tournament at Makushita 17. But this is the highest he's been since then, right? Because he had a 6-1 lower down. Is this the level at which he starts to struggle? Maybe. He could start doing well, though. Maybe he just had a bad tournament, but I still think that puts us with Ishizaki or Dewa Noryu as the options. So if we go back and look at them real quick, I have only seen them fight on like Chris Sumo videos, so I don't know that much about him. Like, Ishizaki is just straight killing it all day, every day. At 15 West back in 2021, he only went 3-4, but he dropped out after that, which means he could have been hurt. And now at 16 West, he went 5-2, and at 8, he went 5-2. So he's probably going to do well. He's got every reason to go after it as hard as he ever has, right? I mean, you could say that about anybody towards the top of Makushita, but Dewa Noryu, I really think that, so Dewa Noryu is 6 East. I really wouldn't be surprised if they both do really well. They both finish 5-2. But I think I'm going to go with Ishizaki. He just looks like a little bit of a safer pick to have a solid tournament. And that's Juryo game for Hatsu Basho 2023. We got 5 games down. We got 2 games to go. Come back tomorrow. We're going to have number 6 in line. And until then, have a great day.